Hey, I'm Steve Hubbard. My co-host here, Mike Garrity. We're here at Papa's Hot Dogs for this week's edition of Papa's Race Review. And today, this segment here is brought to you by Queen City TV and Appliances. If you ever need big screen TV, Queen City is the place to go. They got some neat stuff. They got washers, dryers, everything. So check them out. They're right next door, 2 doors down. What we got going on tonight, Mike?
Well, first of all, we look really good. And I'm not going to lie to you. There's Queen City. We have new shirts. We have new outfits. And we did this just because we have a prestigious guest today. We have Tom Baker of Team Full Throttle. How you doing, sir?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing good, man.
Prestigious.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Did you spend a lot of time this afternoon flipping through the dictionary to find that one?
That's my word of the day.
Got the library for an hour this morning.
Prestigious.
Looked up that word.
Our cameraman, Matt, he likes having words of the day, and he's on the radio show as well. And when they come out, they're pretty amazing.
That's
and
awesome.
I never want him to use them
Nicest
again.
things anyone's ever said about it.
Matt is on the radio show because he has a face for radio.
That's been said about me many times too.
Well, Tom was on the radio show as well, so
Really?
yeah.
Yeah, but
Face
he's
for
on
radio.
TV.
Thanks, Radio Loves. Exactly.
So Team Full Throttle is all about driver development. Is that correct?
Yes.
But I think it'd be good to step back because driver development, there's a lot of different types of driver development. Tell us a little bit about Team Full Throttle and what makes your driver development different from others.
Well, essentially, we take the term literally. Driver development, as far back as I can figure, actually started way back in the days of Davey Allison. You know, Harry Raniere, and it decided to put Davey in the car with no real experience in ARCA, or I guess it would have been Busch Series back then,
Sure.
and put him in the Cup car, understanding that, you know, it may take a few years for the kid to win, which of course it didn't, but and unfortunately we lost him way too soon. It would have been
Right.
amazing to see what could have happened if we would have had him around for a bunch more years. But
Yeah.
that seems to be where it all really started, the idea of, instead of recycling a veteran group of drivers, just put somebody young in the car and go forward. And
Sure.
So, and then of course, if you look back through the 80s, 90s, and even the early 2000s, you had the ABC programs that the teams were doing, ARCA, Busch, and Cup. You know, you go sign somebody younger and work their way up. But
Right.
you know, now the funding that the teams had available for those programs is largely dried up due to the economy. So
Right.
essentially now there's kind of a whole new situation in place for younger drivers, which is essentially you can be as talented as you want, but if you don't bring dollars to the deal, it's a lot harder to get signed.
Right.
So what we decided to do with Team Full Throttle was really work on developing the racer and put that as the first focus. You know, then look at the on-track coaching, which we also do, but we feel like we're trying to develop young people to be the best they can be off the track, and what they learn from us they can utilize in anything they do, whether it's racing or some other type of position inside the sport or outside the sport.
Sure.
So we teach them a lot about media, we teach them a lot about marketing, we teach them a lot about coaching, we teach them a lot about how to dress, how to
Okay.
talk, how to deal with different types of people that they're
Wow.
going to run across, you know, personality traits, things like that. We really get into leadership skills a lot, communication skills, because that's all important. And I don't think there's enough of that, honestly, taught in the schools.
Right.
So, you know, we just try to use what we have to do our part in that and help them become better young people.
No, but
and,
I think the thing that's lacking in a lot of these kids, and I'm sure the parents do the best job that they can, but the life skills portion.
Yeah.
My wife's a teacher, and we see it with the kids. You see it with every form of athletics, and they're starting to incorporate it in football camps and baseball camps and in church camps. They're starting to do a little bit of it in school, but they only have a fine line. But the life skills, and it transfers over to motorsports in the form of marketing, but it is life skills. It's, you know, you're representing that brand 7 days a week, 365 days out of the year. So it's not just when you climb in the race car, and sponsorship isn't just about stickers anymore. And to me, the neat thing is you're a coach,
yes.
but we have a mutual friend who happens to be a coach as well.
Yes,
So
Dave
you
Ferguson,
subscribe
sure.
to
Yeah.
that mentality.
Yep. Well, you got to walk the talk. I mean, I have a coach, and he has a coach. You know, I mean, I think a coach is something I think everybody needs, and really, it comes down to this: as a young person, young people don't think of their future in terms of laying out a plan and visualizing what success looks like to them and
Right.
how they're going to achieve that. So that's really where we start, is by trying to get them to think about their approach to racing in more of a business-like manner rather
Sure.
than just as I want to get in the race car and go fast, daddy, kind of thing,
Gotcha.
because that's only a part of it. I mean, you can win all the races you want, but if you don't speak well, if you don't work hard in school and keep the grades up, if you don't learn how to communicate verbally, if you don't learn how to deal with people, and how to understand different personalities and be able to work within a team concept,
Sure.
you don't understand the fundamentals of teamwork. You might get there, but you're not going to have as good a chance of staying there.
Right.
Because the higher you
Gotcha.
go, as you well know, the more champions there are at that level, and
Yeah.
the harder it is. The more, as you go up higher, you become one of a decreasing number compared to what's down below, and everybody down below is snapping at your heels trying to get where you are.
Right.
So you're racing to keep your job, and there's so much more to it than driving the car now. So
Well-
that's really what we focus on.
And I think if you go around and you look at the amount of winners each weekend, there's a lot of winners. A lot of people win races, but not many of the kids are going to have the skills that you're able to teach them, like the media training,
Right.
the public relations skills, the life coaching, all that. So that's neat that you're giving them that well-rounded education.
Well, honestly, I feel like we have to for a couple of reasons. One, I think it's the right thing to do, but two, the reality is that out of all the kids that we work with over a 10-year period, if we're successful in seeing 2 of them get to a level where they're in the top 2 or 3 series in NASCAR and they're sticking, we would probably be considered quite successful. I mean, the odds
Right.
with 122 starting spots when the top 3 classes are racing on a given weekend,
Yeah.
and probably 50,000 young Mike Garrity's,
You just call me old?
it's just very. I said young.
Okay.
I said young.
In contrast.
I know the role here. I said young. With about 50,000 young drivers out
Sure.
there or more, it's really, really tough.
It is.
And it's not like a baseball situation where you have your various minor leagues and you just keep moving up until you might
Yeah.
get a shot at the majors. It's so fractured in our sport. There's so many different ways of getting there, and there's no real
Yeah.
definitive way. The only definitive way is to have enough dollars to do it yourself.
Yeah.
And there aren't many people that are in that situation.
You bring up a really interesting point, and it's something that I think 5 years ago, the ABC program that you mentioned, the ARCA Busch Cup,
Yep.
was kind of like the go-to.
That was it.
People
Yes.
were running that, and you saw Newman come up through there, you saw Kyle Busch come up through there. Right around the time that Blake Feast was doing it, and Kyle Krisloff with the Hendrick guys, and Ryan Hemphill with Ganassi, it kind of broke away. Like it wasn't seen as much
Yeah.
of a viable option, and now ARCA is really, a lot of that money has poured into ARCA, and I don't know that it's the go-to series. It's a great training ground. You're running at Kansas and Michigan and Talladega, and you're running at all the NASCAR tracks. But it's interesting because now maybe it's the East Series, or maybe it's the West Series, or the Past South Series. So how a guy like you kind of guiding, saying, okay, no, I don't think that's where our opportunity is, or I don't think that's where our competitive advantage is going to be. These kids are kind of to the wolves. Where do I race to get noticed?
Well, one of the mistakes that I see a lot of parents make too is they'll take X amount of dollars, and one of the things we try to get parents to do is look at what you're getting for your dollar. And if you're gonna have 3 shots in the ARCA series in the middle of the pack car, where the best you're gonna run is 10th, even if you are 100% of what you can do that day, that car is gonna run 10th. If that's probably not going to get you where you want to go.
Sure.
You're much better off to take that money, drop back 1 series, and look at running a full season of something else where you can be competitive and win and run different tracks. So we really try to sit down with each of them because everybody's situation is a little different geographically and what's available and where they're at when they come to us. And so we try to sit down and tailor their plan to what their situation is. And we hope that they'll listen. We can't force them to do what we advise them to do, and we don't claim to always know everything we need to know, but we've been around this long enough to see the mistakes that get made and see what tends to be the most successful ways to go. So, my biggest fear is moving someone up too quickly before they're ready. You get 1 shot, you go out, you don't look good, and now everybody says, well, he's not very good.
Yeah.
And it's hard to erase that black mark,
Yeah, that reminds me of Greg Biffle. Do you remember what they did with Greg? They held him back because he was older. He was around my age when he finally got his big truck break. And so Roush said, well, Kurt Busch has plenty of time to mess up, but you don't. You get one chance at this Cup thing. And they held him back, won some nationwide championships, Busch at the time, and he was ready to go Cup by the time he got there. And now look at how well he's doing.
Yeah.
So that's cool. And we all thought Joey Logano was going to fail because they moved him up so fast, but he had the money and the time to...
We had the money and the time, and really, if you look at Joey, all the way up through, from the time he started at 14, running Roush Cup cars in Atlanta with Mark Martin tutoring him.
Right.
Okay, until the time he went to the Nationwide Series, all those cars, the cars he was testing, the Pro Cup cars he raced, the East cars he raced, the Nationwide car, they were all the same car. When he got to Cup, he was dealing with a whole different race car. It was the car than Morrow.
Never even thought about that.
Yeah, so where he had to struggle was the feedback, what that car needed. He didn't really have a lot of experience with that, so it took him a while to get used to that car. Plus, just the level of attention and the spotlight and all of that. You saw in some of his earlier interviews, things I look at as a coach, you know, that nervous smile, you know, that just sticks to you like glue because you seem real nervous. And then as he got more comfortable and more time with the camera, he's relaxed more, and now he's really doing a great job on and off the track, I think. There's a lot of things that people don't think about that go on behind the scenes when you're taking a 16 or a 17-year-old and putting them into that world. You know, that's a lot to ask of someone who's barely out of high school yet.
It's life-changing.
You know, sure it is.
Hey, listen, Matt's yelling at us. We're going to go to commercial. Do you mind sticking around and we'll talk to you a little bit afterwards?
Be happy to.
Cool, man.
Right, and when we come back, I think Chef James Lupo has our lunch.
All right, it smells good.
So we'll be right back here. This episode is brought to you by Queen City TV and Appliance. Don't go away. Don't change that channel.
All right, so we were talking about driver development, talking about life skills. Tell us the specifics about your company. How many drivers do you deal with? How long are they typically in the program? Just tell us some of the frequently asked questions.
Well, I've been actually mentoring and coaching kids for about 20 now. Started up in New York when I was up there, just working with kids. It was really more of my start in racing came through the media, through, you know, radio and newspapers and TV and all that. And what I started doing was just at the local tracks I would go to, the quarter midget tracks or whatever, you just start talking to the kids, trying to teach them how to do a better job of talking about themselves so that when you come to interview them for your media, they actually look good and sound good and all that.
Gotcha.
And so it kind of just developed from there. And, you know, this goes back to the pre-Jeff Gordon days, so there was really no thought on my part of driver development back then. I don't think it even really existed.
Probably called it more like branding or public relations.
Well, it was just, it was more just helping drivers market themselves a little bit and teaching them, hoping that they could get out of the quarter midgets and get to the big track, you know, wherever their local track was. And so it kind of just grew from there. I moved to Memphis in 2003, I guess, and was there about 4 years, picked up a few more drivers along the way. Started announcing some bigger series like the WK's Manufacturers Cup Series, did that for a year, you know, picked up a couple of drivers from there, and so it just kind of grew. And in 2005 I decided, well, you know, it's now or never, so let's see how this works, and I went full-time with it, and it's been growing and developing ever since, and moved here in I think mid-2006, and have been here ever since, and hope to never leave.